let's look at our circle equation. So we need to write out our standard form so we know what we're talking about. And our standard form is x minus h squared. Notice the parentheses and the square on the outside of the parentheses, plus y minus k squared equals r squared. All right, let's break this down. Our h and our k are the coordinate points of the center. Okay, important to note here, in our standard form, it is minus h, but when I pull it out into the center coordinate point, it is positive h. So that means that it's going to change signs. If in our equation it's minus, it's going to be positive. If it's positive, it's going to be minus for both the h and the k. Okay, the r is the radius. All right, here note that in our standard form, it's going to equal radius squared, not just radius. Okay, so we'll look at what this means. We are going to be given the center and the radius, or the diameter, and we want to write our equation in standard form. So we're going to have this kind of something, and then let's fill it in. So our center is at 5, 3. So remember, we're changing the sign. So this is positive 5, so this is going to be minus 5 in our equation. This is positive 3, so it's going to be minus 3 here. Our radius is 2, so I'm going to take 2 squared, which equals 4, and that is what my circle equation equals to. All right, let's look at this second example. We've got the center at 0, 9, and we've got a diameter of 32. All right, if my center is at a 0 for either the x or the y, I don't have to put the parentheses or anything else. I just put x squared. So if y was 0, then I would just put y squared. Plus y, it's positive 9, so it's going to be minus 9 squared. Okay. Diameter is 32, but we want the radius, so we need to take that 32 and divide it by 2. So our radius equals 16. I'm not done. This equation does not equal 16. It equals 16 squared, which is 256. We're going to have a lot of these kinds of numbers in our circle equations on the bigger side, as you guys would start to worry, but don't worry. All right, given a graph, we're going to write our equation. So what we need to do when we're given our graph is we need to find the center, where the center is. That's kind of step 1. Well, I'm trying to write a 1 here. And then we need to find the radius. How do I find the center? Well, it's at this point right here. So here is my origin. So we're going over 1, 2, 3. So that point is at 3. And down to -2. is my center, and all I'm going to do to find my radius is I'm going to start at the center and I'm going to count over how many it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my radius is 5. All right, we've got x, y. Oh, let's fill it in. Our center is at +3, so it's -3 in our equation. -2, so it's +2 this time in our equation. My radius, we take 5 squared, and that is 25. We will come back to this center and point on the circle. If we're given the center and the circumference or area, if we're given the center, we can already start to fill in parts of our equation, right? 9, 10, so -9, -10. Now we just need to find our radius using the circumference, this is what we did when we were doing circumference and area. Circumference equals 2 pi r. So if I divide both sides by 2 pi, then radius equals 3. Don't put 3 in our equation. We need to take 3 squared, so it's 9. Same thing here. Center is at -8, so x plus 8, and -11, so plus 11. Let's find that radius. We got the area this time, which is pi r squared. I'm going to divide both sides by pi to get rid of that pi. So I've got 16 equals r squared. Remember, the opposite of squaring is square root, so I'm going to take the square root of both sides. R is 4. And whenever I square 4 for my equation, that is 16. Take notice, that's the same thing right here. That'll be relevant in a minute. All right, going backwards. So now we're given the equation and we need to pull out the center and the radius. So remember that the center is at this point, but we are going to change the sign. So -5 turns into +5, -1 turns into 1. My radius, this is radius squared. So I'm going to take, so radius squared equals 64. I need to find just r. So again, what is the opposite of squaring something? And that is taking the square root of that something. The square root of 64 is 8. So my radius is 8. Let's look at the second example of that. Center, pull out. So +7 in our equation means -7 at the center. -2 turns to +2. R squared equals 324. Same thing, take the square root. R equals 18. All of that is easy peasy. We're just pulling out, changing a couple of signs, maybe squaring, maybe taking the square root. The one that might be a little challenging is this one in the middle. We're given the center and a point on the circle. So the center, we can go ahead and fill in for part of our equation like we did before. It's at 9, 10, so it's gonna be -9, -10. But we need to find the radius. So we are talking about something that looks similar to this, right? It's on a coordinate plane. Here's the center, and here's some some point on the circle. So we need to find the distance between that center point and the point on the circle, because that's what our radius is a line segment that goes from the center to the side of the circle. And we do that by using the distance formula, which is distance equals x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Okay, which is really similar to our circle equation. All right, let's label my points. We've got this as x1, this as y1, x2, y2, and let's plug it into the formula. We have 7 minus 9 squared plus 4 minus 10 squared. And this is 4 plus 36. 4 plus 36 is 40. This is my radius. And we need radius squared, but in our equation. So when I take square root of 40 and I square it, those two go away. So this equals 40. All right, let me know if you have questions with our circle equations.